So I'm just going to read a couple more. Emile by Jean-Jacques Rousseau. It's like 400 pages long. I'm on page 33. I'm not going to be able to get through the whole thing. I like when I'm reading it. It's sort of stream of consciousness, but he's also really intelligent. So when I'm reading it, he's educating an imaginary person. He's tutoring somebody else's child, an orphan, a rich orphan, right? So he's basically given his entire perspective on education by how he's going to teach this one individual. And it's just, I don't know, it's a really good piece of writing, and you have to really read it. I think I'll keep on reading it online, but I feel like I want it actually in my hands, and I kind of want to mark on the pages and write on the pages whenever I think of some other ideas, because I find that just my thoughts go everywhere when I'm reading Jean-Jacques Rousseau, because it's really good stuff, and I agree with 90% of the stuff he's saying, and it's really relevant right now. So okay. Carrying on, right? I'm going to read just a couple more because I think it's important for this to be documented and be out to the public. I'm sure it is out there somewhere, but I can't. He said this is more important than his philosophy of rights of man or of rights of childhood. His childhood was, how he creates this moral, noble, savage man. So, primitive ignorance, stupidity, natural to man before he learned anything from experience from his fellows. We know then, or we may know, the point of departure from which we each start towards the usual level of understanding, but who knows the other extreme? Each progresses more or less according to his genius, his taste, his needs, his talents, his zeal, and his opportunities for using them. No philosopher, so far as I know, has dared to say to man, thus far shalt thou go, and no further. We know not what nature allows us to be. None of us has measured the possible difference between man and man. Is there a mind so dead that this thought has never kindled it, that has never said in his pride, how much have I already done? How much more may I achieve? Why should I lag behind my fellows? As I said before, man's education begins at birth. Before he can speak or understand, he is learning. Experience precedes instruction. When he recognizes his nurse, he has learnt much. The knowledge of the most ignorant man would surprise us if we had followed his course from birth to the present time. If all human knowledge were divided into two parts, one common to all, the other peculiar to the learned, the latter would seem very small compared with the former, but we scarcely heed this general experience, because it is acquired before the age of reason. Moreover, knowledge only attracts attention by its rarity, as in algebraic equations common factors count for nothing. Even animals learn much. They have senses and must learn to use them. They have needs, they must learn to satisfy them. They must learn to eat, walk, or fly. Quadrupeds, which can stand on their feet from the first, cannot walk for all that. From their first attempts, it is clear that they lack confidence. Canaries who escape from their cage are unable to fly, having never used their wings. Living and feeling creatures are always learning. If plants could walk, they would need senses and knowledge, else their species would die out. The child's first mental experiences are purely affective. He is only aware of pleasure and pain. It takes him a long time to acquire the definite sensations which show him things outside himself. But before these things present withdraw themselves, so to speak, from his sight, taking size and shape for him, the recurrence of emotional experiences is beginning to subject the child to the rule of habit. You see his eyes constantly follow the light, and if the light comes from the side, the eyes turn towards it, so that one must be careful to turn his head towards the light lest he should squint. He must also be accustomed from the first to the dark, and he will cry if he misses the light. Food and sleep, too, exactly measured, becomes necessary at regular intervals, and soon desire is no longer the effect of need, but of habit, or rather habit as a fresh need to those of nature. You must be on your guard against this. The only habit the child should be allowed to contract is that of having no habits. Let him be carried on either arm. Let him be accustomed to offer either hand, to use one or other indifferently. Let him not want to eat, sleep, or do anything at fixed hours, nor be unable to be left alone by day and night. Prepare the way for his control of his liberty and the use of his strength by leaving his body its natural habit, by making him capable of lasting self-control, doing all that he wills when his will is formed. As soon as the child begins to take notice, what is shown him must be carefully chosen. The natural man is interested in all new things. He feels so feeble that he fears the unknown. The habit of seeing fresh things without ill effects destroys his fear. Children brought up in clean houses where there are no spiders are afraid of spiders, and this fear often lasts through life. I never saw peasants, man, woman, or child, afraid of spiders. Since the mere choice of things shown him may make the child timid or brave, why should not his education begin before he can speak or understand? I would have him accustomed to see the fresh things, ugly, repulsive, and strange beasts, but little by little and far off till he is used to them, until, having seen others handle them, he handles them himself. If in childhood he sees toads, snakes, and crayfish, crawdads, he will not be afraid of any animal when he is grown up. Those who are continually seeing terrible things think nothing of them. All children are afraid of masks. I began by showing Emile a mask with a pleasant face. Then someone puts this mask before his face. I began to laugh. They all laughed too, and the child with them. By degrees I accustomed him to less pleasing masks, and at last hideous ones. If I have arranged my stages skillfully, far from being afraid of the last mask, he will laugh at it as he did at the first. After that, I'm not afraid of people frightening him with mask. When Hector bids farewell to Andromache, the young Astyanax, startled by the nodding plumes on the helmet, does not know his father. He flings himself weeping upon his nurse's bosom and wins from his mother a smile mingled with tears. What must be done to stay this terror? Just what Hector did, put the helmet on the ground and caress the child. In a calmer moment, one would do more. One would go up to the helmet, play with the plumes, let the child feel them. At last, the nurse would take the helmet and place it laughingly on her own head, if indeed a woman's hand dare touch the armor of Hector. If Emile must get used to the sound of a gun, I first fire a pistol with a small charge. So Jean-Jacques Rousseau, he's scaring his fucking kids with all these scary Halloween masks, and he's, giving them cold baths to strengthen up their skin so that way, they'll be strong and be able to survive the elements of nature. He's comparing him to like when Hector does something, he has a mask or a helmet, and the baby's all scared of the helmet. And then, so you just make the baby more comfortable with it, put it on, laugh about it, try to make it, to where it's as innocuous as it actually is. And Emile must get used to the sound of a gun, clearly. Of course, that's important. So, I first fire a pistol with a small charge. He's delighted with this sudden flash, this sort of lightning. I repeat the process with more powder. Gradually, I add a small charge without a wad, then a larger, and in the end, I accustom him to the sound of a gun, to fireworks, cannon, and the most terrible explosions. I have observed that children are rarely afraid of thunder unless the peals are really terrible and actually hurt the ear. Otherwise, this fear only comes to them when they know that thunder sometimes hurts or kills. When reason begins to cause fear, let use reassure them. By slow and careful stages, man's child learn to fear nothing. In the dawn of life, when memory and imagination have not begun to function, the child only attends to what affects its senses. His sense experiences are the raw material of thought. They should, therefore, be presented to him in fitting order, so that memory may at a future time present them in the same order to his understanding. But as he only attends to his sensations, it is enough at first to show him clearly the connection between these sensations and the things which cause them. He wants to touch and handle everything. Do not check these movements which teach him invaluable lessons. Thus, he learns to perceive the heat, cold, hardness, softness, weight, or lightness of bodies, to judge their size and shape and all their physical properties by looking, feeling, footnote of all the senses of the smell. Latest to develop in children up to 2 or 3 years of age, they may appear to be insensible of pleasant or unpleasant odors. In this respect, they are as indifferent, or rather as insensible as many animals. So looking, feeling, listening, and above all, comparing sight and touch by judging with the eye what sensation they would cause to his hand. It is only by movement that we learn the difference between self and not self. It is only by our own movements that we gain the idea of space. The child has not this idea, so he stretches out his hand to seize the object within reach, or that which is 100 paces from him. You take this as a sign of tyranny, an attempt to bid the thing draw near, or to bid you bring it. Nothing of the kind. It is merely that the object first seen in the brain, then before the eyes, now seems close to the arms, and he has no idea of space beyond his reach. Be careful, therefore, to take him about, to move him from place to place, and to let him perceive the change in his surroundings so as to teach him to judge distances. When he begins to perceive distances, then you must change your plan and only carry him when you please, not when he pleases, for as soon as he is no longer deceived by his senses, there's another motive for his effort. This change is remarkable and calls for explanation. The discomfort caused by real needs is shown by signs when the help of others is required. Hence the cries of children. They often cry. It must be so, since they are only conscious of feelings when those feelings are pleasant. They enjoy them in silence. When they are painful, they say so in their own way and demand relief. Now, when they are awake, they can scarcely be in a state of indifference. Either they are asleep or else they are feeling something. All our languages are the result of art. It has been long been a subject of inquiry whether there is ever a natural language common to all. No doubt there is. And it is the language of children before they begin to speak. This language is inarticulate, but it has tone, stress, and meaning. The use of our own language has led us to neglect it so far as to forget it altogether. Let us study children, and we shall soon learn it afresh from them. Nurses can teach us this language. They understand all their nurslings say to them. They answer them and keep up long conversations with them. And though they use words, these words are quite useless. It is not the hearing of the word, but its accompanying intonation that is understood. That is so true. The accompanying intonation that's understood. It's not what you're actually saying, but they can understand the stress and how you speak. So the language of intonation is added the no less forcible language of gesture. The child uses not its weak hands, but its face. The amount of expression in these undeveloped faces is extraordinary. Their features change from one moment to another with incredible speed. You see smiles, desires, terror come and go like lightning. Every time the face seems different. The muscles of the face are undoubtedly more mobile than our own. On the other hand, the eyes are almost expressionless. Such must be the sort of signs they use at an age when their only needs are those of the body. Grimaces are the sign of sensation. The glance expresses sentiment. As man's first state is one of want and weakness, his first sounds are cries and tears. The child feels the needs and cannot satisfy them. He begs for them by his cries. Is he hungry or thirsty? There are tears. Is he too cold or too hot? More tears. He needs movement and is kept quiet. More tears. He wants to sleep and is disturbed. He weeps. The less comfortable he is, the more he demands change. He has only one language because he has, so to say, only one kind of discomfort. In the imperfect state of his sense organs, he does not distinguish their several impressions. All ills produce one feeling of sorrow. These tears, which you think so little worthy of your attention, give rise to the first relation between man and his environment. Here is forms the first link to the long chain of social order. When the child cries, he is uneasy. He feels some need which he cannot satisfy him. You watch him, seek this need, find it, and satisfy it. If you can neither find it nor satisfy it, the tears continue and become tiresome. The child is petted to quiet him. He is rocked or sung to sleep. If he is obstinate, the nurse becomes impatient, threatens him. Cruel nurses sometimes strike him. What strange lessons for him at his first entrance into life. I shall never forget seeing one of these troublesome crying children thus beaten by his nurse. He was silent at once. I thought he was frightened and then said to myself, this would be a servile being from whom nothing can be got but by harshness. I was wrong. The poor wretch was choking with rage. He could not breathe. He was black in the face. A moment later there were bitter cries. Every sign of the anger, rage, and despair of this age was in his tones. I thought he would die had I doubted the innate sense of justice and injustice in man's heart. This one instance would have convinced me. I am sure that a drop of boiling liquid fallen by chance on that child's hand would have hurt him less than that blow, slight in itself, but clearly giving the intentions of hurting him. Oh my God, a drop of boiling water. So yeah, this kid's getting beat, he gets smacked around. He was frightened. He'll be a servile being from whom nothing can be got but by harshness. So he'll just be servant. You'll have to be shitty to this fucking child. That's the only way you'll ever get what you want out of this fucking child. That's what that fucking nurse just taught him. That's what child abuse does. So I was wrong. The poor wretch was choking with rage. He could not breathe. He was black in the face. A moment later, there was bitter cries. Every sign of anger, rage, and despair of this age was in his tones. I thought he would die had I doubted the innate sense of justice and injustice in the man's heart. This one instance would have convinced me. So this kid gets fucking hit, and he's pissed, and he's sad, and he doesn't understand, and you can hear it in the fucking tears. This tendency to anger, vexation, and rage needs great care. And Bjorn Have thinks that most of the diseases of children are of the nature of convulsions because the head being larger in proportion, the nervous system more extensive than in adults, they are more liable to nervous irritation. Take the greatest care to remove from them any servants who tease them or vex them. They are 100-fold more dangerous and more fatal than fresh air in changing seasons. When children only experience resistance in things and never in the will of man, they do not become rebellious or passionate, and their health is better. This is one reason why the children of the poor, freer, more independent, are generally less frail and weakly, more vigorous than those who are supposed to be better brought up.